Okay.
Welcome to Godcast, episode 8.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Kade, for that beautiful intro.
Yes. So everyone, here is episode 8. We have Toby and Kade, and this is me. And we're going to essentially just go straight into who you are, bro. Yeah. Your journey, where you've come from, where you are, all the in-betweens, whatever you feel is kind of just comes to you and what you want to share and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll just go into some deep chats.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, cool.
Deep chats. Yeah. So what is, where did your journey start? Maybe the better question of where you are now. If you want to actually say where you are now as well, so everyone knows, you know. Yeah.
I was born in around Brisbane area. I've lived here my whole life. I have a cardio rental business. They lease out gym equipment basically to gyms in Sydney and Brisbane.
I saw that actually. It was you were friends with like Will or
yes.
Lachlan? Yeah. I saw you before. Yeah, sick.
Yeah, so I've been doing that for 3 years.
Awesome.
Which has been a roller coaster, bro. Like it started off my just complete desire to get rich. Like, you know, at like 16, 17, just watching Wolf of Wall Street and just being like, dude, like, this is life, bro.
Sell me this pen.
Yeah, this is life, bro. Like,
cool.
And we're on that grind. And I was pretty switched on. Like I started in just buying and selling used gym equipment on Facebook Marketplace with my best friend Jake.
Yep.
And we just did that and made good money during COVID, dude. It was just like buying and selling equipment. And yeah, eventually turned that into a rental business on Facebook Marketplace, just still on Facebook.
Yep.
Lucky enough to have really supportive parents, like mum and dad gave me generous amounts of money to put into this business because you need capital for any rental business.
Yeah, of course.
So so very grateful to them. And I've built that up now over 3 years. Just poured on my partner, Jake, who we did it separately, like in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like we live in the same house, buying and selling stuff. And then we're like renting the same stuff, have the same business, but separately.
Right.
And we're kind of competing against each other, you know. And then I grew it a lot more. And now I'm going over to Germany for about 6 months in like 10 days.
Oh,
so,
shit.
Yeah. So I'm like, I need help. And it was also a really good opportunity to just ask him if he wanted like to come on board.
Yeah.
So we basically merged as a company.
Yep. Nice.
And he's like the general manager now. And I'm like CEO, director.
Wow.
So I'm just like, you know, calling the major shots, like what do we need to do to actually grow?
Yeah.
And he's basically managing everything else, putting out the fires, managing like coordinating our delivery drivers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's becoming a well-oiled machine now.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. But that's where I am now. That's what I do.
Yeah.
But there's always been in me something that's like, you know, I was chasing that so hard for a reason, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I was looking for something.
Yeah.
And for me, I'd say my journey with spirituality, I was brought up Christian my entire life in a church called the Apostolic Church, which is a small church in Queensland. Will was actually a part of that church. And very, very traditional. Men sit on the right, women sit on the left.
Oh, truly.
Oh, wow.
You know,
Wow.
only male priests and you can't, you know, a lot of things you can't do. Strict rule book. Yeah. Very, very righteous, very good people.
Yeah.
Very righteous people.
Is that the same branch as Catholicism, or is that
No,
quite different?
it's not. Honestly, I don't have that much idea. Like, I'm not that well educated in terms of like Christian denominations.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really.
Neither am I. Really.
Yeah. But anyway, I was brought up in that and like raised in that, like 6th, 7th generation in that. Like,
Yeah. Wow. Cool.
It's just like an ancestor. Like my ancestors were like the founding people in Australia. And so it's very much just like, this is just how life is, especially in a small town where I grew up.
Yeah.
You know, like 50 years ago, there was almost everyone that went to church, you know, even in Australia and across the world, especially in a small town.
Yeah.
And even in our little town, Toogoolawah, you know, 1,000 people, there's like 4 churches, bro. Only 2 of them still exist, like, you know, but there's 4 church buildings, man. This tiny town of 1,000 people. Like people, it was really popular. And so I was raised in that. But I never really questioned it. I wouldn't say I had a relationship with God.
Yeah.
I would say, but I never really questioned it. It was just kind of how it was.
Yeah, it's sort of like more so you were following like the cultural Christianity.
Yeah, I was following my parents. Dude.
Yeah,
I was doing what I was told to do.
Yes.
And I didn't really like it. I didn't really like going to church and sitting there. I wasn't inspired. I was just a little kid. I was pretty ADHD, bored, would always play up and sitting and standing a lot in church. Also standing was the worst, right?
Yeah.
I literally go to bed on Saturday night, be like, come on, like they say in the catechism, dude. The first thing you should do in the morning is think of your Creator, dude. On Sunday morning, the first thing I'd think about was, bro, like I don't even know how to like put my church socks on properly, dude. Like,
bro, I still get that when I go to even the church that I actually want to go to. I'm like, I'm just ready to sit down at this point.
Pass the bread. Pass the
yeah, dude. That's a communion going. I love the choir though. The choir was great. But basically, honestly, the most in-depth relationship I had with God was, I would get pretty bad. Like a lot of kids get pretty bad nightmares when they're a kid. When you're young, I had pretty vivid dreams and really just scary nights sometimes when you
actually sorry to cut you off. That was so weird because I was like, what are we going to talk about in this podcast? And like being Christian, I'm just like, okay, what should we talk about in this podcast? And there's actually like, I thought nothing of it, but I heard like nightmares, and I was like nightmares. I was like, yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people get nightmares, I guess, but just funny you mentioned that now. I'm just like very interested. But go on.
I think about it as a child though, how real that is. Yeah. Like I was even talking about, it was a little bit off topic. I was talking to my brother the other day about quicksand. And how when you're a kid you think like quicksand is like it, bro. Like your first like perception of death is like quicksand. You know what I mean? Like that's your nightmares, bro. Is quicksand. You know what I mean? So true. But yeah, like with a limited perspective, you're having these nightmares as a child, and you're like, dude, this is so scary. Like, you run into your mum and dad's. I'd run into my mum and dad's room, crying, and so I would say prayer to God to say like, dude, like this sucks. Can you basically help me with this? And with sincerity too. And that went from, I can still probably remember like what I would say or some little thing. I just said it every night. I'd say like, God, let me have no bad dreams or no dreams at all. Let me have no harm and no thoughts of harm, no fear, no thoughts of fear, and just a good night's sleep. Amen. And I would say that, and it worked. And then that prayer turned into probably after the course of maybe 5 or 6 years, I would say that every night, turned into like maybe a 20-minute monologue of my entire day. Wow. Because it just became my friend. I was just like, okay, I said, oh God, I had a pretty good day today. This is what I did, this is what I'm doing. And so tomorrow, this is what I'm going to do. And I'd outline everything. I'd just tell him. And thinking back, and then after a while I stopped because I wasn't getting bad dreams anymore. Everything was good. I had so much comfort. I would say that prayer and I go to bed with so much comfort. And that was my first time I actually, really now when I think about it, actually had a relationship with God, with some sort of comforting Father. But I didn't, but in a way that was still probably at that age, I thought that was just also in my head. Like I was talking to God, but I kind of also knew I was just trying to reassure myself. And then growing up, like got confirmed in the faith, 14 years old, and still was like, at that, I remember it just happened. One day, and it's like when you realize Santa Claus doesn't exist. One day you realize, oh, that might have just been a story Mum and Dad told me. And one day that happened to me in church, or maybe I don't know actually where it was, but I'm like, oh, maybe none of this is real. And then for the next probably from like 13 probably to 17 or even 18, I had just this growing existential doubt and a crisis essentially happening inside me. Because church was every Sunday, so you were reminded of it every Sunday. And I wasn't, and there were like, I would go through years where I would just kind of forget about the whole thing and just go to church robotically, as I always did. And then there were times when I was really like, dude, it's mainly when you're tested, when it's like, for our church, no premarital sex, no drugs, no excessive drinking of alcohol. when I started engaging in all of these things, and before it's all right, you know, you go to church, whatever. But as soon as I start breaking the rules, and I'm doing things that I want to do, but the church says no, I'm like, well, am I going to be a hypocrite the rest of my life? Like, no, I'm not a hypocrite. Why would I live a lie in myself?
I get you. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, you know, at 18, then I, you know, had my first girlfriend, and I started, you know, having sex, and I was like, this is the best thing. Why should I be waiting to marriage?
Yeah.
And now I actually have slightly different views. You know, I've kind of come full circle in a weird way, but but at the time, it was such an innocent thing. And then basically, I just kept having these doubts, and then I started taking like recreational drugs, MDMA, whatever. And at that point, I was like, well, too far gone now. I was like, well, I'm going to keep doing this.
Yep.
And I'm not going to pretend that I'm good. So I basically just said, dude, it didn't take me long. It took me like a few like atheist debates on YouTube or atheist videos on YouTube for me to just be like, no, it's not real.
Okay.
And I went from the fear of eternal hellfire, you know, eternal damnation in hell if I'm a sinner, to none of it's real. And then maybe a month later, I did magic mushrooms for the first time in Bali, in Gili tea or Bali.
Was it the mushroom shake?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah, so good.
You have?
I have.
Oh shit! You didn't even tell me about that.
It's another story, maybe.
Oh, okay. That's another podcast.
I know talking about,
Actually, funnily enough, I did with Will Crash. And we're both going through the same moral dilemma internally, because we both, our parent, we're actually related, dude. Like, our parents have known each other their whole lives.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, we go to the same church, and we were going through the same thing. We took the mushroom, dude.
Yeah.
And essentially, it just, for me, I opened my heart so much to him and us, and we just, instead of it being like me against this reality I'm facing of, is there a God? Am I damned? Whatever. It was us.
Yeah.
And then it was like, we were just like, maybe we're just like atoms, you know, maybe we're just all matter. And at that point on the psychedelics, I had this basically, at that point I went to complete nihilism, I would say, or just atheism, essentially. Basically there is no God. Okay. Which was great at that point, because I was so scared that I was going to go to hell, you know? Yeah. And so I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. Clean, like basically, whew,
Yeah.
I'm great.
Yeah.
Good. So then I just spent the next year or two, dude, like pretty much a year, just like doing whatever I wanted. Like
I was about to say, yeah.
Money, and in that making money, because now there's no ethics or morality, ripping people off, bro. Like, wow. You know, like not just because why not? Because in my heart, there was no love. There's me and there's them. There was no us. You know, it wasn't about the belief. It was about in my heart there was no love.
Yeah.
And you know, do the drugs and whatever, and got addicted to weed a couple of times, moderately, not so bad, but had a relationship that was pretty hedonistic. It was just sex. And then after about a year of that, I was like, man, this sucks. Especially in the times of the weed dependency.
Yeah.
Because you know, you wake up and it's like 7 a.m. and go and rip a cone.
Yes.
And have a cigarette, and watch some porn, and then I'm like, now what do I do? I'm making great money. I don't even have to work. Fuck, like my life is really sad at this point.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, I don't know what happened. I know what happened. I crashed my car, crashed my van, and it was 20 seconds later, bro, a truck straight past where my van like went in that path on the other side of the road. And I was like, wow, I just stayed with that in my heart. Like, I could have died then. And that just made me super grateful for being alive. I basically went through this breakup with that girl that I was seeing. That happened, and I'm like, okay, well, I can't work so much right now. I don't even have a van to do my deliveries with. All right, this is just how it's going to happen. And then a couple of weeks later, I started going to these 5:30 boxing classes in the morning. Just started, you know, got off weeds, just started improving myself, you know, like just being better.
Yeah.
And then I met, and then I met a girl who I fell in love with, and it just completely changed everything. At Splendor in the Grass Festival.
Yep.
2023, great festival, dude.
They shut it down, you know.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah. The lineup that other year didn't look too good. And then they closed. They stopped it. So
Yeah.
Met this girl Florence who fell in love with basically immediately, dude. And she was just like from New Zealand but living in Byron Bay. Like I was like, this is the like kind of girl I want to spend some more time with, you know.
Okay. Cool.
And we had this chat, like just literally while I'm like beaming, bro, like 10 pingers and you know a lot of cocaine. And she's just chilling, and you know, and then she's like, "Oh, so what are you doing when you get home?" I'm like, "Oh, I'll probably go to church." She's like, "Oh, you go to church?" I'm like, "Yeah." To have a conversation about that, and then you just start talking. I can't really recall, but it was just a very connecting conversation. And
awesome.
the main thing was I felt for the first time so heard, bro, so understood.
Yeah.
Like the year I just had to then that moment where this woman understood me, I was like, holy damn, bro. Like just the human love, the human of this beautiful woman.
And especially just going through like that atheism, nihilism, hedonism cycle, and then getting into that like, oh shit, yeah.
Moving into this space of like out of time completely. It's just we're just here together and we're like enjoying each other's company, and you know, like I would just be like scrambling, like at one instance at that festival, so we were together and I was just like scrambling trying to fix my swag up, my tent up, and she just said something and I'm like, you just hear me, you just completely hear me. And normally I'm like putting on a mask, and then it just completely came down. And anyway, basically, I fell in love with her that weekend, dude. And started like seeing her.
Yeah.
Just would drive down to Byron and see her, and you know what, she was a little bit into spirituality. She would do meditation and yoga.
Not Christian, or was it
No,
she just
no,
kind of just on her own
No,
journey?
just completely new age, whatever, you know, on her own path.
Yeah, cool.
And that happened, and then I started like, I was just smoking a little bit of weed, you know, here and there. And then one night, and also I should mention that my friend Ethan McVeigh, a good friend of mine, he just started trickling in this thing about Buddhism to me. And I was like, okay, this is an interesting theory about, I didn't really understand it at all, to be honest, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
This philosophy, I love philosophy. Very interesting to me.
What's the general idea of Buddhism, if you know?
Everything is one, essentially, and then nothing is. There's no real like. It's like things are just happening.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Right.
And there's no actual point to any of it. Only that one comes to the realization of that fact. And once you have that realization, then you're free. Essentially. And he was trickling these ideas in my head about this and stuff. And then one night, and this is where I'd say I had an awakening, you could call it, whatever. This is where everything changed for me. Is I just smoked a little bit of weed one night, and I'm just laying in my bed. 4 hours have gone past, not even that high. I'm listening to Alan Watts. I don't know if you know Alan Watts.
I do.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to Alan Watts just explain something about, you know, something, bro. Like just consciousness and how we all one.
Yeah.
And suddenly something just clicked inside my head, or inside my entire being. And the only way I can explain it is that it was a transcendental experience of my ego. So I went from identifying as me, as a separate being, to you and everything. Actually, the trees are separate. Me and then the world, right?
Yeah.
There's duality. There's me, and there's the world, or there's essentially. To my perception of myself was everything that existed, including the entire cosmos, including my room, and including everything, while also still being me. And in that way, it was like I was experiencing some sort of immortal, godlike consciousness where I was literally everything, like God. Yeah. And I was like, wow. At that moment, I understood and I knew that I am eternal. that I am not going anywhere. And that has stuck with me. And that, the fear of death completely went away. Like, I won't die. I am not this body. I am something, everything that is. I can't die.
Yeah.
The energy, in physics, the energy cannot be destroyed.
It can be transformed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this energy of consciousness, and but before this, I'll go to bed at night with these existential thoughts, like crisis going on. Like, I'm like, I would say like, but I'm gonna get to the end of my life. Everything's gonna happen, and then I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
And so I'm young now, but let's just wait, dude. 20, 60 years, 80 years goes fast, and then I'll be gone. So why do anything?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Why do anything?
Yeah.
And I would just have these doubts, and then that moment of realization of like, oh no, I am way beyond this. We go on. I just continue into the next birth. Essentially, is my general theory with Buddhism. I was like, it just makes sense that we continue. The children are born every day, so I must go on. And that kind of set me on the path of like, I'm like, okay, that's it.
And how did that play into with Lachlan doing like the shadow? Or was that
this came later. This came definitely later. More in like just an interest in my it was along the lines. But I started getting into like meditation through this.
Sweet.
Because I was like, okay, this is like what Buddhism talks about, basically the eternal Brahman, the eternal one self, that we all are one. There's no separation. It's just an illusion. Yes. And I saw that. I was able to see through the veil, and I was like, fuck, that's it. And that's where I'm going. And suddenly my whole business, my relationships, everything was made so relative, because I was like, this is just a speck of dust in time. And this will go, and this body will go, and I'll continue. So at that point, my focus just a little bit shifted to, I'm going to prioritize my spiritual. And at that point, I would say my spiritual path began.
How interesting.
At that point, I stopped so much identifying with this physical and more internal, because the internal experience I was having was much more profound, But that was the start.
Walking so obviously it's different, because when it comes to business, it's all about like, sort of like grinding outwards in a way, so grinding externally. In terms of the spiritual, how did that feel different in terms of just growth?
Well, I just was like, okay, well, I can just sit now. I can just sit in meditation, and this is what I'm going to do. Yeah. So I started with these 10-minute meditations, and 20-minute meditations, and I started with like different meditations, like Joe Dispenza.
Yes, I love Joe Dispenza.
Awareness in your body, and then eventually I just was just sitting with myself and sitting with my breath. Which is what I do now, meditation.
Cool.
Well, I do different meditations, but primary. And then I was seeing this girl, Florence, madly in love with her. So that was like, dude, I was doing this meditation practice, and it was right at the start. It was so fresh. It was great. Every meditation was better and better and better. And I was seeing her, so I had this love in my heart, this deep love. And so that when you're in love, it changes everything. It changes the way you perceive everything. And with my practice, I loved it, dude. I loved the yoga, and I was doing like an hour a day after probably 3 months from nothing. I was doing an hour every single day of meditation. And I kind of stayed in that. I'm like, it's meditation. And and life went by, and you start to slowly forget about that experience that you had. It starts to just become a memory. It's not so much like feeling. Yeah. And that honeymoon period wears off in the relationship, where you're like, okay, now we're just, we're seeing each other and it's great and whatever, but there's not that, how it was at the start.
Yeah. Like the spark in a way, was it? Or was it?
There wasn't the burning flames.
Yeah.
There was still fire.
Yeah.
It was great, but it wasn't as fresh and as new. And obviously, as I'm going through internally still into my life, it's like, shit.
Yeah.
I'm projecting that into my relationship, Yeah. And so my business is getting so busy at this point. This is when things really start ramping up.
Yeah.
I'm working heaps. Started and I'm using psychedelics a fair bit, and then kind of stopped, and then I was just like smoking weed and drinking.
Yeah.
And then I'm still doing this meditation practice, but all these bad habits are still coming back in. Like I'm starting to drink again, starting to smoke again, not exercising as much. I was competitive bodybuilder. And then after being a natural bodybuilder, I became enhanced bodybuilder using steroids, got as big as I possibly could before I had to come off. And then after that, and I'd done that for 6 years since I was in high school, very passionately. And then after that, I'm like, well, I'm not going to get as big as I was. I'm not going to be on juice again. So that passion kind of went away. That 6 years of my life, that really good, disciplined thing, I completely fell out of love with. And so I wasn't going to the gym as much. I'd moved back to my parents' place because it was just financially made more sense. And I was still in this relationship, and I was kind of really like, at least I've got this. And the meditation, it's not really working, but it was just very robotic at that point.
Yeah.
After about a year, this is probably a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
But at least I got the relationship. And in my mind, I've always seen like basically life, like as good as life gets, is a happy relationship with a woman. To me, it was like a happy marriage. Like, that's what I wanted to see in my parents. That's what I saw at times. And the movies, it's just like the
pinnacle.
The pinnacle is like just be in a happy relationship with a loving girl, dude, 100%. And I had that at the start, and then she was still very loving. She was an amazing girl. But me internally, I was like an empty cup kind of, and I was like starting to kind of realize this. And yeah, it just kind of, I would take her on holidays and it'd be great. And then we get back and I'd be like, damn, she actually lived in Airlie Beach. I was down here. So it was long distance pretty much after the first 6 months.
Yes.
And then I started looking, the weekdays weren't so great. When the boys are having something down here on the Gold Coast on a weekend and getting smashed on a Friday night, that was looking even better. And I was just like starting to live again for the pleasures of life, really. The money, the everything. Although I'd had this awakening experience and I had seen the truth, still the human part of me had its desires. But in a way that they just had this like emptiness to them, because I knew, because this time I knew. Before I was in ignorance and I know it's just the money, whatever. And now it's like the money's coming in. I'm like, yeah, cool. But there's a part of me that's saying, making money, okay, that's what you're doing. It's not it. There's that part that remembered. That made everything relative still. Yeah. Yeah. And they'd just be like, well, fuck, this is boring, kind of. I'm bored. And then, at one point I was here down in Burley and I was just like looking out there and I was like, just help me. Like, I'm just talking to whatever. You're like, how, like, I don't know, like, this sucks. I need help. Something.
How long ago was this?
Maybe like August of last year.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And then that night I had a call with my girlfriend then, and she said to me, is this working? Or she said, no, are you getting any value out of this? Is this like any value for you?
Out of the relationship?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Yeah. What do you mean? Of course. This is exactly what I need. Like, this is great. In my heart being like, I don't know, actually, because this is making me really anxious that you're away from me. And I'm like, are you? And she's like, yeah, of course. I know, I am. And she was being honest, and I probably wasn't. And then I just sat with that. And then the next day I just messaged her. I said, hey, like, I need to take a week just to be by myself. And then that week, during the process of that week, I kind of realized in myself that I was empty, that there was, and I couldn't, with her and with this relationship and with, the message, you're getting a message every day and you're calling every week and you're still getting that drip of that validation and that thing. I couldn't break away from it. I couldn't stay centered in myself. I couldn't find myself. I was lost, so lost. And to me, I was like, I can't be in this relationship anymore, because I can't give you anything. because she was always so honest and so loving to me. But at that point, I realized I can't give you anything. Like, I'm so empty as a human, and all I'm doing is taking from you. And when you give to me, oh yes, that moment where I feel good again and I can give you back. But as soon as you feel not great, my world is gone. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, it just sucked. So
Sorry about that.
thank you. It's okay. It's life. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, actually. And then I just, after a week, I had some conversations. I'm like, the last thing I ever thought I would have done is broken up with someone who made me so happy and who never did anything wrong to me. I've been broken up with a few times in my life from previous girlfriends. Yeah. Completely like out of the blue, like, whoa, where did that come from? I'm so heartbroken and like, this sucks. I'm like, I would never break up with someone. Like even the girls I was with that weren't even making me that happy, I wouldn't have broke up with them because I was just happy to be with them, to be honest. And now it's come to the point where the girl of my dreams, bro, and we had 6 months to a year of like just dream life together, has come in, wants to be with me, and I'm like having to break up with her. I'm like, what? Like, this is hitting me so hard because I'm like, that was my, like, up until that moment, my belief was life is its best when you're with the woman who makes you happy. Yeah. And now I'm like stepping literally into like the most unknown part because I'm like this is meant to be my life. And then I'm just, completely walking away from it basically of this girl. And I did that. It was like pretty hard. I just, at that point, I guess I started choosing me again. I started choosing that. I started coming from that, like the cry was the pain was so much that I had to look up at this point, you know? Yeah. And that was kind of where that happened. And to give context now, in May of last year, I was just sitting, and I hope this is probably going in all different tangents. This is the way my brain. This is coming. This is the way my kind of brain goes. But it's important. I would tell the story the same way. May of last year, I'm just sitting at my computer at home working, and I'm just on YouTube, and I just come across this video that's like, bro, it's like not even like 200 views, just on my recommended random video. It's like Talk with a Monk, Walk the Talk podcast by this like random like guy from the Netherlands. This 2-hour long podcast with this like monk, and I'm like, why not? You know, clicked it. They got this like tilak on their head. I'm like, kind of cool. Start listening to it, watching it, and they're just like literally walking around this ashram in Germany, talking about this guy's spiritual path, this monk's spiritual path, and how he came to meet his guru. And I had heard about gurus before. I was listening to Ram Dass, which is a guy from in the 60s to 90s. He did a lot of talks. He went to India and found his guru. And I had faith that this is real, that the people are like this. You know, after my awakening experience, you know what you call it, I actually had so much more faith in Jesus. For the first time, I understood, like, that's what Jesus was, that consciousness. Like, he was this light being of like all kind of knowing with, you know, like, and I kind of had this little bit of appreciation. And anyway, this podcast is really interesting. And I kept watching some more of them. I was like, okay, keep watching. Watch the whole 2-hour thing, dude. I was like, this is great. Really engaging. The guy was super grounded, which I liked. Not off in the clouds, but also... I think very practical. Logical. Very logical, made sense in my head. But also totally like batshit crazy.
I was about to say disconnected. Is that a word?
Not disconnected, but like far out.
Okay.
Like what is this? Very connected for sure. Very grounded.
Oh, out of the norm.
Like talking about this guru guy, and I'm like, whatever. You know, this is cool. And at this point, I'm like, I don't know if this guy's alive or dead, whatever. And I just keep watching these podcasts of these more monks that this guy's interviewing, this small podcast. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is really engaging. And I looked up, right, who is this guy? Paramahamsa Vishwananda. You know, this spiritual guru.
Yeah.
And I looked, okay, he's still alive. Cool. Found his photo. And yeah, over the next coming months, from May till probably August, when I broke up with my girlfriend, I maybe watched 5 of these podcasts, and I had actually was listening to Guruji's, which is the name he goes by, Guruji, his videos on YouTube that they record. They record all of his satsang and stuff. So I was listening to that, getting some spiritual teaching, and all kind of aligned. I was like, I don't know about this guy. Like, he's just kind of sitting in this chair talking. Like, I don't know if he's this enlightened guru, like the one I've heard about, but maybe he's had some spiritual experience, and he sounds like he's definitely higher than me. So that's someone I could turn to. And then the night that I went to break up with my girlfriend, then I was just randomly, bro, on like, I don't know, just like, okay, like, want to find something more for my spiritual path because meditation isn't working so well. And I went on to Bhakti Marga, which is the movement that he started. And they have this project mantra where you can use mantra, which is a very common technique, and also Christianity as well, to the repetition of the divine name and using mantra to calm the mind. So it transcends the mind by fixating on the mantra. You can go beyond, but also the divine name, especially in languages like Sanskrit, these ancient languages carry a vibration within themselves that they say that the name of God is no different to God himself. So by being absorbed in this name, you're being absorbed into the love of God. And I was like, oh, sure, I'll do this project mantra, this 40-day thing, whatever. And then I went to try to break up my girlfriend that night. Couldn't do it. Literally couldn't do it. And I went to sit down and meditate. And I was going to this project mantra thing, whatever. Still doing that for a little bit. I was like, I got bored of that. So then I started just sitting there. And I immediately just felt this loving presence, this warmth in my heart. Just this, like, to me, it was like him. Or God. And it was just like, the feeling was like, you can't do this. Well, I can't do this, but maybe he can. And at that moment, it was giving up a little. It was actually having some trust in life, and not being so controlling that, like, and in God, and to me, God. Boom, broke up with my girlfriend the next day. Did it. 3 days later, did a 40-minute breath work with Lachlan Mitchell in a group. In that breath work, I like laying on the ground, doing this big whatever, laying on the ground, and in that breath work, the only thing I was feeling was, come to me, come see me, come to me, come see me, come to me, come see me. Just that. No real feeling, just like a knowing, a deep inherent knowing that I was meant to go to Germany and see Guruji. And obviously never met him, never spoken to him, whatever. And then a day later, I booked a flight to Germany. 3 days later, I was in Germany. And I'm like this. If I know something, I'll do it, And I went there, and it was this like commentary. I literally just found, I was like, anything where I might like just be able to see him or experience anything, but I don't care what it is, and I don't care the price either. Yeah. And it was so expensive, and it was just like random. It's called the Guru Gita commentary. It's a commentary on the.
Whereabouts in Germany was this?
Near Frankfurt. It's in a small village.
Interesting.
An ashram, and there's a commentary on this text called the Guru Gita, which is a text about the relationship between a guru and his disciple, devotee, right? And I went there, and it was like I was there for like the last 5 days of it, whatever, and it was lovely. Like, people are very lovely. I like just so much love from everyone, and some people, just things that happened with some people where I was like, man, that's just like.
What did you see specifically there?
Do you mean like some of the nice things that happened?
Yeah.
Like just some people I met. Like I met this one day. I was like going to take a shower, like trying to find out how to get a towel to take a shower. Yeah. And I ran into this like monk. There was like 1,000 people there. I ran into one of the monks.
Awesome. Yeah.
And he, bro, just like kind of like took me under his wing.
Yeah.
And he was just like super lovely, like just so much love in his heart. And basically went and listened in the big kind of hall. And Guruji's up the front there, and I'm kind of listening to him talk and whatever. And yeah, it was a process. There were different things that come up when he would say something, like on this path, you must be vegetarian. You must not have any meat.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I guess I'm giving it up. Let it go. I'm like, I'm in Germany. I came all this way to fucking Germany to do this thing. And he's telling me I'll be vegetarian. I'm like, let's just go with it. Right. I'm like, all right, cool. I give it up.
Yeah.
Done.
Like no conflict at all, just like full surrender.
A little bit of conflict, but I worked through it.
Give up my steak, my medium rare steaks.
Yeah. I was like, gone.
Yeah.
And then, okay, on this path, there's no drugs and alcohol. And dude, the day before that, the day that I left for Germany, I did mushrooms with my uncle. Like,
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I just kind of stopped smoking weed again. And he's like, no drugs and alcohol. And I'm like 21, dude. Like, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I guess this is it.
Yep.
And then immediately I just feel this little bit of closeness again. This closeness, this trust. Like I'm giving up something of myself. And then this trust. And then at the end of this thing was Darshan. Now, Guruji is a very special being. And looking into his eyes is considered grace of God. It's like, he's considered an enlightened God conscious being. So his perception, the only way we can explain it, understand it, I can somehow maybe have a slight grasp of it from some of the experiences I've had, but it is that he is in constant union with the divine, with God, in the personal form, like personal version, like he's with God always. This is how he feels.
Is that someone that is existing?
Yes, this is Guruji.
This
is Paramahamsa Vishwananda.
Yeah.
This is his reality. He perceives God in everything and everything. We say he's God realized, enlightened, a guru, Christ consciousness, whatever. And so looking into his eyes is like, it's a big blessing. And so people, since he was 8 years old, lined up at his house in Mauritius.
Wow.
6 hours long, like they would just line up for. Thousands of people would come to him, and he would just sit there in his chair, and he would give them darshan, and he would heal people and perform all sorts of miracles. And he's now 47. He's been doing this for 40 years, and just sits and he's just
Since he was a kid.
yes.
Wow.
Yes, became realized when I was a child. Yeah. And when I sat down, I got the front seat for this darshan. And I'd never actually being that close to him, front seat. And everyone's, this is it's a Hindu tradition that they practice. I mean, they're not, the ashram, there's Mother Mary, there's Christ, there's actually a church in the ashram.
Yeah.
It started off being very about Christ and eventually transitioned more into a Hindu tradition, but it's essentially the same. It's just devotional. It's just, they talk about Krishna, they talk about Rama so much. And he still talks about Christ, but everyone's singing these Hindu bhajans, these Hindu songs, and I'm up the front and like everyone's wearing dresses and robes and all that. I'm like, how did I even get here, man? But this is the pinnacle, this is it. This is the darshan when I'm actually going to meet him.
Yeah.
And basically what happens is you line up and he looks you in the eyes for about 5 seconds and you will walk away.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So darshan is like another separate guru or...
Darshan is actually means divine sight.
Divine
So
sight, okay.
darshan is an event. Like you go to darshan and you get darshan, you see him. And so you all line up in like separately kind of.
Okay.
And one by one you look into his eyes and you have this moment with him. And that's darshan. And everyone's singing and he hasn't even entered the hall yet. And as the music's ramping up and everyone's clapping, suddenly this feeling overwhelms me, bro, of like this, the feeling was I'm home. I am home. The thoughts before that was how did I get here? Dude, what is even happening right now? To literally just I'm home. Like I've come home to my parents' place after 100 years, 100 lifetimes of not seeing them, that feeling. And it's just complete bliss. And I just broke down into tears for the next 2 or 3 hours. Crying, bro, like uncontrollably. Didn't know what was happening. And as he enters, and I'm just literally like on my knees crying, and there's just this light pouring out of him, and I'm just like not physical light, but energetic. I just feel this. He is just this. This is just divinity inside him that I can see, And I sit down, just bawling my eyes out, crying. Immediately, Darshan starts. The line starts. He sits there in his chair, and he's just like sitting there, like looking at people, and he'll maybe talk to some people, bless some things for people, put his hand on some people's heads, guru stuff. And I am looking at him with, like, the way I felt was, it felt like I was being held in the arms of Jesus Christ. At that moment, I completely understood Jesus. I was like, this is Jesus. Like, literally, like, to me, in my heart, the unconditional love that I was feeling was like, I'm loved for everything. Everything I'm loved for. Even the worst things I've done, the worst thoughts in my head, I'm loved for. And that is what I'm looking at right now. And it was like I was looking at a tiny little hole in the fabric of reality. And that hole was just God. And that was just unconditional love in the form of a human being. Like, just, I was, man, just blew my socks off, bro. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, whoa, I'm speechless, bro. Like, yeah. I've done DMT before. I've met things on DMT, and this is nothing like that. It was more powerful than this. And it was just completely broke through everything all my preconceived anythings. Yeah. I was like, what am I experiencing? Anyway, I line up for the Darshan. The Darshan wasn't so intense. It was just looked him in the eyes. He looked at me in the eyes. He spoke to me. He said, where you're from, whatever. Yeah. He then asked me to help him with the Darshan, and I did that. And for like 3 hours, basically, I was serving right next to him, helping with the Darshan, handing him things for him to bless. I've just met this guy. Yeah. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. But I'm looking into his eyes. I've got to look into his eyes so I can see who he's looking at, so I can give him the right thing. Right. So I get to look in this guy's eyes for like hours, bro, 3 hours, and just see his interaction with everybody who comes up. I'd look at the person, I'd have my judgment. I'd see short, tall, skinny, fat, scared, angry, righteous, proud. And I'd look at him and I'd see unconditional love. And I'd look at them and I'd feel, and then this love inside my heart was there as well, because it's like the proof is here. It's like the love is there. And he was just perceiving it, and everyone. There's like the kindness he was showing for hours, bro. That Darshan lasted like 6 hours with no break, no drink, no food. He's just sitting there for that. And I'm like, wow. The next day, dude, I'm just high. I'm like, the next day I was like on MDMA. It felt like I would look into everyone's eyes with just this love, like just this I see you, presence, love, that being with him that time.
Blissed.
Yeah.
Really blissed, yeah.
Yeah. Blissed out, bro. Yeah. Blissed out. And I received Atma Kriya Yoga, which is the yoga that we practice. It uses, it's like more of a breathing methods that awaken Kundalini up and down your spine.
Heard of it, yeah.
And it's a...
Is it sort of like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's sort of like you're unlocking the chakras in a way?
Essentially, essentially. Yeah. Moving energy through your body.
Yeah, my dad does it, so I'm like kind of like having these like memories from that. Yeah, sick.
Received that. When I did that for the first time there, wow, dude. It was like I was taking hits of cocaine. Like, it was crazy. I was like, this is incredible. Did that, and then that's kind of how I found him and met him. And then I went back like 3 weeks later, but I couldn't get enough of it. I went back to Germany. Literally, like I think I spent a month back home, and then I'm like, I'm going back. Wow. In the meantime, I got back together with my girlfriend because I thought life was good again. Like I was like, it's great, right? I'm fine. I've seen God. God's real. I love him. He loves me. Perfect. Done.
How was your girlfriend's reaction? Was she like, oh, hi?
No, yeah, she's like, well, I don't even know. She didn't really know, to be honest. Yeah. How do you even deal with someone like I've clearly gone nuts. Yeah. You know what I mean? Obviously, I've lost the plot. Yeah. You know, there he is. He's gone finally. Then she's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then meanwhile, she's off kind of working on boats, on cruise ships. Yeah. And we're back together, but I'm back in Germany, and I go back to Germany. I'm like, this is gonna be the best thing ever. You know, of course it is. I go back, bro, and the minute I step foot in that ashram, my life just turns to hell. Internally, I don't know, I just go into this like depression.
In the ashram?
In the ashram. Right. As soon as I stepped in there, just the initial interactions I had, and then just my inner state just went down. And then there was this big celebration, bro. every day that celebration, I'd go to my room crying. I was just, and a lot of anxiety about my relationship with her. And then that eventually kind of fell apart due to my own anxiety. I'm like, I can't deal with this. Like, and I broke up with her again. That 2 weeks to 3 weeks of my life, hell, bro. Like every morning I'd wake up probably 5 a.m. and I'd cry. I'd go back to sleep, wake up at 7 a.m., cry. Try to like go to prayers or whatever. Come back to my room, try to practice yoga. It'd be so in my head, cry. Like it'd be just miserable, bro. And I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know what it was. I was just...
So you didn't even know the cause of why it was happening?
Well, it was because I was actually breaking the cord between me and my girlfriend. Right. Before I did it, I thought I did it, but I got back together with her. Obviously, I didn't really do it, did I?
Yeah.
Obviously, it was still very strong, but this time, he kind of made sure that this is actually happening, and it just cut me so deep. Worse than before, like, and I was in ashram with nobody I knew. I'd started doing the seva, which is like the service where you just serve in the ashram.
Yeah.
Housekeeping, just basically mopping floors, cleaning toilets, making beds.
Yeah.
And I didn't really enjoy that. And I would just cry every day doing it for about the first month. And I ended up staying there. I wanted to stay for 3 weeks. I ended up staying for 3 months. And I just, eventually, though, I kind of got a little bit of grounding and I got over this initial wave. And then it went on to more intense training of like the sadhana, the spiritual practice, the yoga, the prayers, the service, everything. Received darshan a few more times while I was there. I didn't see Guruji so much, maybe 3 times. And the initial interactions with him were very limited and small. Like he didn't really know who I was. To my knowledge, and then
it's like slowly fading away. You're meeting with him more.
No, but just his interactions with me at that time.
Yeah,
he were just very like, "Who are you?" kind of. Even though I was there a month later, and I met him and had this beautiful experience with him.
Yeah.
Now he's just like, doesn't know who I am, and then I'm like, oh, I thought you were gonna love me. I thought this is what it was.
Yeah.
Not really. I didn't realize that it's not spirituality. Like it's not about someone loving you. It's about you expressing your love.
Yeah.
And then after 3 months, he'd come back here. Then spent the next 3 months in intense training, like just with myself, like 5-6 hours of spiritual practice a day, meditation, yoga, blessing, whatever, while working. Really hard, and intense. But very determined. Not a lot of love, not a lot of true devotion, but very determined to get there. The righteousness to get there, but dryness in my heart. And then I went to India about 2 months ago, and he was there, and I spent a lot of time with him then, a lot of personal time with him then, and something changed in me again, just a little bit more, and he initiated me as his devotee. So what that means essentially, I'm his. Basically, he's my guru. He tells me to do something, I do it.
Yeah.
He's my master essentially.
Yeah.
I've given up. I said I've given up. I vowed to give up my old life of what I thought was me, and I'll receive instruction from you now to what I do with my life essentially, and to take guidance from you essentially. And had a lot of experience with him in India, which was beautiful. Opened my heart so much. I felt so much love. He allowed me just to be myself around him and express that love to me. Like in the initial darshan, I'd see everyone else be themselves and him love them. And now I got to be with him and be my 100% self in all of my flaws. And again, feel that love and just being in his presence, bro. Like, it just cut through so many layers of guilt, probably, and guilt and pride, and just allowed me to be a lot more. And that was that last experience I had with him. And now I'm,
Yeah. Wow.
Where do you even start from that? I had so much come to me during all that.
No, you go for it, man.
Me?
Take away.
Man, okay. where do you feel like you sit now because like just what I'm going through in my head is you went through pretty much what every single person experiences in their life as it's the human experience, right?
Yeah.
It's the being raised in what you've been raised in and thinking that's all there is, and then realizing, well, maybe there's more, and so there's the curiosity phase, and you go into, well, maybe there's meaningless and there's no meaning or purpose to life, and then you flow into, okay, well, what is the truth? And then you're bouncing in through truths to some degree, and you're kind of having, what do you say, revelations or realizations of who you once were and who you were supposed to be, and so you've gone through the bounces and you're here now. And so where do you sit with everything that you just laid out? Do you feel like you're there?
Not at all. No.
Yeah, not at all.
No, I'm just working on myself.
Yeah.
You know, everything is still here. Like the feelings of unworthiness, the feelings of pride, the judgment, like it's all still here. I'm just working with it.
And does that disappear or get maybe covered when you're with your guru or with your guru? Yeah.
That gets those feelings get loved when I'm with him. I still experience those, but when I feel, and maybe we can talk about this more in terms of like what God is, but when I experience God, is I'm not experiencing anything different to my human experience. I'm just experiencing that plus love. So it's like it forms a relationship.
Yeah.
Like I'm beginning to see that my thoughts and my emotions and my personality isn't who I am. It's I can experience everything in my life that I experience as a relationship, like as not me, as literally like a little child.
Yeah.
And so when I'm with Guruji, obviously, you know, it's like that. He is that love. He is that feeling.
Yeah.
And you feel high, and then you come down, and then you work with what you've got.
Yeah.
You do your spiritual practice. You do meditation to open the heart, come into that heart space constantly. But yeah, when I'm with him, so when I'm with his body, it doesn't really matter. Like who he is isn't anything different to you. You know.
Yeah.
He is just like to me. He is love. He is God, and he's in everything. He pervades everything. My understanding of God is that if there's something that God isn't, it isn't God. Like he is in everything and everyone, in every cell. So if I'm at that level of God consciousness, I'm looking at you and I'm perceiving my guru. So the method of this relationship between the disciple and the guru is that your relationship with him becomes so intensely strong, that love you feel is that you actually perceive it in everything. Because it is everything, and you're just he shows you that. Yeah.
Do you and you said you feel like you're not that you're like there, because I believe that we all believe we're on a continuous pathway, that of course we are still living in this body, and so as our human experience is still there.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's that love that love of this world that exists, that is the truth, that kind of almost you could say helps us experience life truly through that means. We've got the caddies. But I guess what I'm saying is not what I'm saying, but what I want to ask is, you go there, you have that relationship and that experience with him, and you come back with that. What happens when you come back here and you're you're not with him specifically?
Well, nothing really particularly changes because because he treated me well that one time doesn't mean he's going to do it again. And oftentimes it's actually not the case.
So you see him as just human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he is the most human there is. He'll act in the most human way. He'll get angry. He'll get annoyed, frustrated. His personality is very almost bipolar, and not bipolar, but almost multi-personalities, multiple personalities identity. Because he will take on, he is a reflection of whatever you are projecting, and with love. So he will just like be anyone that he needs to be to work at you. And sometimes working at you might be holding you. It might be saying, I love you. Sometimes working at you may be saying,
confronting.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Yes.
Okay.
The experience I've had mostly, there's been some confronting, but not so much not so much in my experience thus far. I'm at the start of my journey. You know what I mean? I'm at the very start of my journey. When I talk to other devotees about some of the experiences with Guruji, like, can be very different based on what happened for them.
Do you still feel loved now?
Yeah. I mean, I have a normal human experience. I wouldn't say I'm constantly in this feeling of love, but I'm more and more tapping into that. When I, for example, when I did my meditation this morning, I felt love. I felt a lot of love.
From what?
From him, from literally my perception of my reality being him, like God. And for me, God and Guru is no different. He is just like a vessel for that. It's no difference. It's just God, and that is the perception. So like sometimes I'll be, sitting in after meditation and perceive my whole surroundings as love, God.
Yeah.
And then, he's still here. Just because I come back from Germany doesn't mean he went anywhere. He's still very much here. And other times I'll be right next to him and feel so in my head and alone. You know what I mean? It's dependent.
So it's a continuous awakening. Kind of always been aware of the love that does exist, whether you want to decide to perceive it or not. And so what do you think it is when what do you think it is when your perception, I guess, what would you say it is when you don't feel that love and it ends up being hate or suffering? Is that also God?
I mean, it's the perception is, probably it's my ego. It's that I'm at that point perceiving my separateness, and it's coming from desire, from what do I want? Because if I want something and I'm defining myself as not having something and being unhappy, essentially, it's desire. It just breeds discontent. So it's coming from desire, and it's
What's the goal?
I guess the goal is
from what you understand so far.
I mean, my actual philosophy of life is you do whatever you want, bro. Like I don't think there's necessarily I genuinely feel like we are all part of God, and we exercise this self-agency to do whatever we want. So whatever you want essentially will happen as you are God, creating your reality as you see fit. So there's no goal. The goal is just do what you want, dude. Like, we're free, we're here, we are enlightened.
But that exact same understanding or philosophy or perspective is the one that also led you in the beginning at the start to nihilism and hedonism?
Yes, 100%. It did. So the only thing that changed was that at the start, what I wanted was different. And then when I got a taste of love, I saw that, no, what I actually want is love. When I met my girlfriend and I fell in love, what I wanted started to shift because I was starting to get it. I was like, oh no, what I want is love, 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 love. And slowly my desire, what I actually want, is changing. So I'm just constantly refocusing until the only goal is God. Like you always see, you always see what you're looking for. You always see what you're looking for. And if you're looking for God, all you'll see is God. It's just a choice, And
that's where the spiritual practice comes into play, where because it's an understanding, right, with Christ, and what Jesus speaks about is that we are called to carry our cross every single day and deny ourselves. For he who wants to save his own life will lose it, but he who gives up his life for me will save it. And that's it right there. We're talking on the same thing. It's the wanting to live in the Spirit. And to live through the Spirit is to live in the truth through the Spirit, and to not to succumb to our desires, hedonism, or our flesh is what we come to understand it, right? And so how do you discern the difference? How do you know the difference between what is of God and not of God, or what is good and not good, and because like the difference, like you said, is like, now I have this understanding of love, and you've found this truth. It's the same thing of like, everyone is here to do whatever they want to do because we have that self-agency, that free will, but that's the same thing that led to nihilism for you at one point in your life as well. And so there's like, well, yeah, like for the average person, what is that like? How do you know that difference?
I mean, you just, it's hard to say for the average person. I can only speak of myself. And I would say I don't have any understanding of love.
What about for you?
I would say I don't know the truth. I don't have any understanding of love. I don't know. It's just a faith that it is true. Like, it's not a belief. It's just the way it is. Like, it's just, he is real. Like, it's just, yeah.
I got teary because something hit me so hard. I'll be open about my experience. I started completely atheist, agnostic, wasn't raised in anything, nothing at all. And I've had experiences of God as well. Ones that I never believed in, and I didn't come through anything to get to them besides complete seeking of, I guess, the truth that was laid out in front of me, right? We take the truth lines of where it leads us. Yeah. And I had experiences of God. And you've you've had to experience and go through so much. And I guess I just have to say it as it comes to me, because I feel like God gave me something of a feeling, because I got hit in the heart so hard just then when you said that I don't really know what love is, or know what truth is. And the reason that hit me so hard was because I didn't either for a long time, and I believe that's what God is God is love and is truth. And to say you don't know what love is or know what truth is hit me like you don't know who God is, because Jesus just comes to me now, but Jesus says he's the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And he says not only to believe in the truth, because I believe you have faith that there is a loving God and that love is real and it is the truth. I believe you have all that imparted in you for sure. But he says not only to believe in it, but to know it. And I felt, I don't know if you want to call it this or not, it hit me really hard, but I felt I felt God's pleading to our souls and to you to know him, and not just to have hope or faith only. Because faith, as it says, is the hope of things unseen. And so you hope that it's true, but I would say, and this is me personally, I'm not sure if Toby would say this as well, but that we have experienced him and his truth, and he's came to us, he's met us that halfway, right? As we draw close to him, he draws close to us, and you've experienced that too, but that we've come into contact with that, and that we wouldn't say we not only believe in him because there's so much we haven't seen that he can do, not only for us and for life, but that we've come into contact and we know him. We have relationship with him. And it just, I don't know about you, but when you just were talking about how you've come into contact with that love, and you've felt that, and you've cried with it, and you've had all that, and you're so open about it, but you don't know what love is. I think that's one of the things that tears me to pieces and God to pieces the most out of anything, that we don't know what it is, because I think you're honest by saying it, and you're one of the more honest and most humble people that I've met in spirit, and that's a really beautiful thing to have, because Jesus says, blessed are those who are humble in spirit, blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for they will see the kingdom of earth. Blessed are those who have mercy, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are those who are humble in spirit, for they will see God. All these things he says. I believe that you've seen him but haven't met him is by what I just got when you said that. Man, every cell in my body's tingling through that. Yeah, I don't know if there's too much more that I should say, and maybe that's all that needed to be said. I know God, I know love, and I know truth, because Jesus claimed to be that as God, as the only true, perfect living person. Because even you said your gurus aren't perfect. They they'll make mistakes, and they're human, right? They're not God, but they are a part of God. I believe that we all are that which came from God. We are all made in the image of him, right? And for you to say that as well is perfect, because Jesus was sinless, was perfect. And so, like, it's the belief that he is the only true incarnation, Son of God, Son of Man, whatever you want to name him as. And to know God is to know Jesus. And I think you understand that, and I think you actually have not fully left that in the dust. But yeah. So I guess I feel like there's a question. Do you want to know what love is? Do you want to know love? Do you want to know truth?
My guru asked me this question constantly. What do you want? What is it that you want? First thing I said to him was, I want to love. I want to love. And I'll also make a correction when I say, for me, my guru is God. He is not human. He has a human body, but he is no different to Christ. It's the way that I perceive him and the way that I relate to him is that, for me, he is God. He is love. And yeah, he is God, he is love. to say that I know God, to say anyone knows God, you may have met God, you may have seen God, you may have talked to God, he may have come to you, but to know him is something much more. To know him is to know him in everything, to see him in everything. My guru sees him in everything, in it's that completeness and totality of not just someone who has come to you, not just God, who maybe it was God who came to you. And I'm not saying I actually do believe you. A lot of these stories, I hear myself talk and I sound like a batshit crazy person. You say you've met God, I believe you've met God. But to know God is to know not only him in the personal form. Is, to me, God has a personal form, yes. But as God, also he has an impersonal form. You may have met God in the personal, but there is a whole other aspect to him which is impersonal, which is everything else. Like that God, if you're an impersonalist, like a Buddhist, for example, you do not generally take the path that God has a personal form. But if you believe that God is everything that exists, that you can even possibly imagine, everything that exists, which is God, there can't be anything he's not. He's God. He's the one who did it, dude. Like, then he must also have that reality, that God reality. This must also have a version of that, which is him, the person. He must also be in a personal form, because if he wasn't, then it wouldn't be God, because God has to have a form. He is everything. So he is formless and he is form. And so he comes in his form, but he is also a formless, in which it takes much more to understand than to have a vision of God. But to me, my guru is this both. And he is speaking to me.
He asked you what you want.
Yeah.
And
I always lie to him.
I was about to say, does he...
I'm trying to be honest now.
Do you... One of the big, I think, things that I think you also understand is life about what we want?
I mean, in a way, yes. In a way, no. In a way, life is about what God wants. Actually, this is all life is. Life is what God wants.
There seems to be a bit of a disconnect then, I find. And I mean in the way that maybe if would you say your guru was asking you for that purpose of to realize what it is God wants, or to realize what you want?
Maybe both. I never really thought about it, to be honest. When he asked me, what do you want? I think, what do I want?
Yeah, that's. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, and the purpose is to have our eyes on the divine, to be completely in alignment with the divine in every sentence, with every word, with every moment, and that's to reach nirvana, right? That's to reach enlightenment. Is what you want what God wants?
I mean, in a way, yeah, it is. It's like I don't actually perceive God as separate from myself. Like, I'm a part of the whole, and also him, and we go from two, like being in the relationship, to actually just being one. They're just being God. Meaning you don't actually exist. Only God exists. but there is also you in that. So when you say, is there a difference between what I want and what God wants? I don't exist. No, there's not. They're the same. God's will, and they're the same will. That's when they say not my will, but thy will be done. It's not like you can do anything else. Like, you can't have a will. It's not saying like you, not my will, meaning, oh, my will is wrong and God's will is right. No, your will doesn't exist. It's not my will, but thy will. Only his will is real. So
you're sort of saying that this world is an illusion.
yeah,
This creation. Yeah.
it's to our perception. It's just it's an illusion. The perception that we are actually separate from him in the first place is just, again, it's an illusion. It's not real, and it's just him doing it the whole time.
Is it? Does then hedonism and nihilism exist?
In terms of like an ethically or morally wrong thing?
Yeah, I guess so.
Not really. I guess not really. Then that's the glory. To me, that's the horrible beauty of God, is that not only is he doing the trees and he's doing us and he's doing the birds, but he's doing all that too. Yeah, he's doing all that too.
Do you have free will then?
Yes, and I don't know. Yes and no. It's you know, it appears that I have free will. I think I move my arm and I think move my arm and arm moves, but really, actually, I didn't think about that. That just happened. And I didn't really plan for that to happen either. And the same with my heartbeat. It just beats and it's happening. And I may decide to think about something for a while, but really all that's happening is there are thoughts that are going through my brain, and I'm there, and I believe that I'm the one choosing, but I don't really know that for sure. Like, I don't know how a lot of stuff happens.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I say I don't know.
You don't claim to.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
It's and when I say I don't know, it doesn't mean I don't have faith, or it also doesn't mean I hope.
Yeah.
Hope is saying hope comes from desire.
Yep. I agree.
Faith is just a complete trust that I don't know God, but there's this burning sensation of love in my heart, and when I'm not, and it's like out of time, and it's immortal, and it's eternal, and it's just there, and it doesn't need me to know anything. It just needs me to be, just here myself, who I am. If this is God's will, then I can't make a mistake. I can't make a mistake. I can only think I can make a mistake, and even the mistakes I make are just lessons. You know, it's not like it's not a performance. We're not doing it. We're not performing. We're just learning shit.
Is murdering someone wrong?
I mean, you could say, yeah, it's wrong. You shouldn't murder someone. It's wrong.
If I have the desire to murder, is that wrong?
It's like, if you have that desire, you may, and this is the sad thing about killers, is that there's somewhere in there. If there's God in everyone, to me. Everyone's just learning their lessons, and some people are taking lives, some people aren't. It's like, to me, that's just their run this time. And there's some part of that killer, there's probably a massive part of that killer who doesn't want to kill the person. But unfortunately, he can't help wanting to kill someone. Just like when I say, you know, right, I want to give up my desire. I want to give up my desire for sex, okay? Because I want to go to God, and I don't want to be lustful, because these are bad things, and these are disconnect me from God. But I'm also experiencing the body of a 21-year-old and the psychology of a person who's been watching porn for 15 years. So although I don't want to do that, I can't help wanting to do that. And I don't feel guilty about it because it's who I am. I guess for me, there's no idea of original sin. There's no idea that this inherently is wrong. Isn't anything inherently wrong? We're just kind of hanging out, and people are just choosing to do things. You know, if that makes any sense, I don't know.
There was an amazing in Romans 1, I think it is. Paul writes about how this body, we are confined to this desires of the body, let's call them desires of the flesh. And he's like, I do not do what I want to do, but the things that I do, I don't want to do. So if the things that I don't want to do are what I do, then is it me that keeps doing them? And he said, no, it's sin that lives within me then. It's desires that live within me. And he says, who will save me from this? Who will deliver me from this desires that I don't want to be doing, yet I know I should not do them? You know, e.g. murder, sex, drugs, things that really mess us up. He says, thanks be to God through our Savior, Jesus Christ, right? And I think that there's this understanding that I feel like you're so close in the way that you're saying that there are things that disconnect us from God, that there are things that you could feed into and go through this process of hedonism and nihilism and just doing what you want. But you ultimately
which is all you can ever do.
Yeah. And you can keep feeding into that, but that there is a wrong in that. There isn't that is the disconnecting me from the divine ultimately, because I'm feeding into pride, ego, expectations, hope, all these things. And yet there's also this understanding that it is actually only about what you want. I'm trying to reconcile it. I think I'll help you answer it potentially by saying I think that it's not that we stop desiring or having wants. That's not the purpose anyway. We still will have wants and desires. It's just that we reform them and reshape them and reform it into a new way of our wants and desires wanting to be focused on God and love. And then that's the truth. And that's what we're trying to do. But in that, you can't, it actually isn't about what you want in that. Because it kind of just like made a little bit of a contradiction in my mind that it's about what we want. And so your guru's asking, what do you want? And maybe he's trying to help you actually realize that what do you really want? What is the real truth? But at the same time, there isn't actually a understanding that we are separate from God in the first place. There is no fallen sin or original sin that separates us from God. It's just an illusion that we think that we are separate from God. But yet there's things that do separate us from God, and there are wants and desires that separate us from God. And so I'm trying to reconcile, maybe understand that then are there things that do separate us from God and that don't lead us to enlightenment? Are there things that create that disunity with the divine?
Maybe not things, but
thoughts, action, desires.
I guess attachment to them. Like kind of like what you said about it not actually being about what you want. Like if you're doing something with attachment, meaning that you are identifying with the action itself.
Yep.
Then anything actually, not just murder, but anything with attachment, anything with self-identification
Yes.
is, and this is why it's funny, because it's even the pursuit to God, in all of your best efforts, actually you can't do anything at all. It's only His grace. It's only His grace that allows it to do. All of your righteous attempts, all of my sitting down to do meditation, all of the prayer, all the things with attachment, in hopes that you might gain enlightenment, or your hopes that you might be saved. They're all separating, but at the same time, you can't do anything about them. You can. So if you say, okay, well, I can't. Like you can't help but be selfish. This is the human motive. Your only motive is selfish motive. And then if you say, okay, well, now I've got to not be selfish. Well, why'd you do that?
To not. Yeah,
exactly.
That's selfish. Yeah.
Still motive.
Yeah.
So you'll always find yourself wherever you think and wherever you want.
Yeah.
Wherever you want, you'll find yourself.
My dad would love talking to you. Literally.
So again, it's His grace and His love that allows us to miraculously transcend that desire, where we don't do anything about it. He's the one doing it, but there then becomes space, and then our attachment becomes less.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, our attachment with self. Yeah. Right. And I believe that too, for sure. And I believe it's something that Jesus spoke very heavily on as well, that there's no such thing as a righteous good deed. They're all self-righteous. Yes. They're all like, yes, right? For sure. Okay. Do you see... What is your where do you get your understanding of God's grace then, that regardless of the mistakes we have made, we are still in unity with Him? Or where do you get grace from?
I don't know, dude. Grace is just it's just all grace. It's like, I don't know where it comes from. To me that's like saying, like, where does God come from? Like, where does the loving, merciful will come from? This grace.
Yes.
That pulls us from sin, that frees us from attachment. It comes from God, but it's just beautiful, isn't it? But I don't know.
Do you still have? Are people still? No, that's not the right way of saying it. Do people still have grace in their life, even when? Did you have grace in your life when you were in your year of nihilism?
I mean, that was to me, that was some of the largest grace. Not that I knew it, but it doesn't matter if I know it or not. It's always there. That's the thing. It doesn't matter if you know God. He's always there.
Yes.
He's always going to be there waiting for you, you know, with loving arms. It doesn't matter how long it takes, you know. And so, yes, because that put me in so much pain. It pushed me so far into my humanity, into my, whoa, I'm real. I really think this is real, that I had to look up. So without that grace, I wouldn't have ever...
Suffering.
I wouldn't. Yeah. So suffering is grace. And the thing is, we can't ever wrap our heads around that logically, that suffering could be grace. But it is.
It is,
And it all is.
Okay. I feel like there's... Okay, so to agreed, for sure. I think there's a really, really big thing here, which is the understanding of how do we align ourselves with God? Because we understand there is a way to not align yourself with God, because if I shot up meth, I don't think I'd be or maybe you would
Yeah.
meet God in some form.
Yeah.
And you might meet a God, and that pain and suffering might lead to grace to God.
Yeah,
right?
maybe.
And, right.
Yeah.
So we won't understand the divine. We won't understand divine or God in totality because we can't perceive Him in that way.
Yeah.
We are limited, finite beings. And I don't claim to know God in the way that maybe Jesus knew God, or that maybe your gurus might have an understanding of God as well. That we all are fragmentations and parts of God, and it's almost like God is experiencing through Himself through everything, right? I don't think that that's the case. Just that we all have a personal relationship with people. Like me knowing Toby is like, I'm not going to know everything about Toby, because like to know everything about him is to live his life, to be him to some extent. I don't claim to be God. So I claim to have a relationship, and I know of Toby, but am I Toby? No, I'm not Toby. And so I think it's the same with God. But how do we get to know God, or can we know Him?
Yeah. I don't think. I think the one who knows, and this is a Buddhist saying, but the one who knows, truly knows that he doesn't know, because then it's that 100% faith.
Yeah, it's funny. It reminds me of this, Sadhguru.
Yeah.
He says, "I don't know" is a tremendous possibility.
Yeah.
It's like that's the greatest thing you can say. It's
100%.
like if you say yes and you say I believe, that's actually false.
Yeah.
If you say I don't know, that's actually right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a tremendous
and
possibility.
the one who claims to know doesn't really know.
Yeah.
And so can we know God? No, I don't think we can know Him. I think you can, but to get to that knowing, that true relationship, to align ourselves with His will, to feel this, this true connection.
Do you see knowing as understanding as the same thing?
An intellectual understanding, to knowing, no.
Yeah.
Knowing it to me is pretty much faith.
Right.
I would say knowing is faith. I don't think it's like a light doesn't shine on itself, or a knife doesn't cut itself. Like the one who knows doesn't actually know itself. Like you can't. The Godhead isn't. That's the game. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fun. It would be boring. It wouldn't be the point is that you don't know. And then when you finally realize that was the whole thing, that's the thing. That's the liberation. But like, how can we actually know? To me, it kind of ran through me. It was, well, if I can't know, then I'll serve you as righteously as it may be. But through service and through remembrance and through love, to me, is how we can find that faith.
Do you see I think one of the really big misconceptions I've seen of people who claim to know God or claim to know Christ or Christianity or any type is this unity between knowing the truth per, let's say, the Word of God, the Word of the Bible, knowing like, oh, God said don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and you should do this and you should do this, by the 10 Commandments, right? And so there's almost a truth in that, because we find a truth in the 10 Commandments. There's a very underlying understanding of like, yeah, I mean, you murder someone, it's probably not going to be great.
Yeah.
If you worship any other gods other than God, then that's I worship Toby. Well, that's probably not great for him or for me. We know where that leads to, and then hedonism and right. So we understand there's an underlying truth, and I think everyone sees that with the 10 Commandments from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so there's that. And then there's relationship. There's actually spending time with God, and that we believe that God is a personal God, not a mystical cloud that exists out in the cosmos that we don't know anything about him. He's not here. He's not us. We believe in that personal God, And so I believe that's where the connecting yourself back to the divine is knowing him in a relationship, spending time with him, as you've felt, I believe, some essence of what all of this is realizing that everything is God and everyone is like a part of God, and you can actually see God or parts of who Jesus is in there, somewhere deep in there. Sometimes it's not that covered. Sometimes it's just blatantly right there. I'm just showing up. I'm here by Holy Spirit, and God has told me that I need to love you, and here's me being the hands and feet of God, being the hands and feet of Jesus, as Jesus calls us to be the hands and feet of him. And so the understanding that I have, and I believe that Jesus has revealed to him in many dreams and visions, is that to fulfill his will, or to live out our true initial purpose of why we're even here, is to know him by relationship, spending time with him in prayer, in meditation, and is by knowing the truth. And I think that's the difference there of where do we understand, like, has God revealed himself to us? Has that happened? And if we believe that to be potentially Jesus being the only man that has ever lived that's sinless, that lived a perfect life, that his word is truth, and to know him is to be able to discern the difference between what is of my desires that I know I shouldn't be leaning on or focusing on in our, knowing what is right and wrong, to this is actually what God wants, not only for me, but for his kingdom and for his glory and for his understanding of what we're supposed to be doing here, which ultimately, he says, the greatest two commandments, if you already don't know, but Jesus says, he's asked by the Pharisees and Sadducees, the religious leaders of the time, like, what are the greatest commandments? And because there's 613 in the Old Testament, they're referring to this 613 laws and commandments that are given by God, and we're supposed to follow all them to the T to bring, good luck doing that, right? He says there's two commandments that stand above all else. Love God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul and your strength. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as thyself.
And specifically in that order too.
Specifically in that order, right? Because don't put any gods behind them. You don't worship anything more than God. And we get to the question then, what is love? And how do we love? And how do we know what love is and what love isn't? How do we know? And I believe it's by those two things: relationship with God, being in his presence, because being in the presence of God, man, you know what love is. Like, you can't get something else. Yeah, like, you can get hate from you. You're like, I know that ain't love.
Yeah.
And then you can even get what someone might say, I'm giving you love right now. I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
I know God. I know what love is.
Yeah.
I know. I you can taste it. You can see it. It's an intuition. It's a spirit. It's whatever you want to call it. You know. There's a difference. There's a yeah. And then by that relationship, because you feel loved, you feel the loving presence, and then actually seeing where that love is then poured into. Because the feeling, I don't believe, is enough to follow out what love encompasses. Because I can love you, but how do I love you? It's like you said, to serve. I believe that's the highest one. To serve someone without a self, without, you know what I mean? Without that self-attachment of, I need something back from it.
Yeah. And that's kind of what he mentioned as well, because he mentioned that it's like, I can't remember how you phrased it, but you said something about like, okay, you want to be humble, or you claim to know the answer or something, but then why do you do it for yourself originally? It was something like that.
Yes.
And it was the same thing with like how we've come to understand love is always a giving nature. Mm-hmm. It's something that you can't really give yourself. It's something that you actually go outwardly from you.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's where I guess we land with. I believe that there is some underlying commandments and truths that are like within Hinduism and Buddhism and Islam and all these religions, but that ultimately the what is the source of it all? Where is it? Because what from what I'm understanding is you're referring to these moments of experiencing God and experiencing this through people, and I believe that's true. I believe we can experience God through people, and I believe God utilizes people to experience to other people, right?
Yeah.
But discerning of truth, because I believe God is love and God is truth as well. He is the objective. He holds everything. He holds it all. So how do we know His truth as well?
I don't know, dude. How do we know His truth?
Does your gurus know? Would you say?
Can you elaborate? Like how do we know His truth? Like
like what is that which is in alignment with God and that which isn't? Good, evil, love, hate.
I don't know. I don't know if we can know. We're just doing we're doing our best to get close to Him, but how do we know His truth? How do we know His truth?
Do you believe God would impart that understanding?
You mean in words to follow? Like
sure. Yeah. To be in alignment, to follow.
I mean, He's imparted He has imparted how, like the method. You mean how the method that we use?
Yeah. How do we because we have these desires.
Yeah.
How do we know whether our desires are good or not?
You don't. I mean, are good or not? You could. It goes back to the terminology and the duality of the terminology using. How do they know they're good or not? Like, what is a good action to you?
Exactly.
What is a good action to you? You don't. What is the most righteous action to you? You don't know. So you just find a method and that's your way, I guess. There is methods, prayer, meditation, what I'm doing right now, which is mantra beads. I'm just saying a mantra over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And you just get trapped by the method. For the method to work, it has to. And all methods are traps. Everything you're doing, it's a trap. It's not really the thing. It's just a vehicle to get you there.
Yeah.
And you hope that if the method is a good one, it self-destructs at the end, and then you're free. But you do your method, and you trust.
Do you believe God is personal?
Yes, he's personal and also impersonal, both.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Both.
Do you believe God? If He's personal, you felt the love of God. Let's say you felt the love of God. Now through that love, you understand what real love is, right?
Yeah. I felt it, and I can recognize the feeling.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I understand it.
But beyond our comprehension, right?
Yeah. But when I'm giving it, I can recognize. Not that I've ever given it on the level of what I've received. But yeah, I mean, I can recognize it. And the thing is with love is like, what is love? I guess we can't really say anything about love. We can talk about its qualities. We can't say exactly what it is, because to say what it is to say what God is. And you just go, a lot of this, you'll just go around in circles and circles of mental gymnastics. I mean, we can talk about its qualities, like it's eternal, immortal.
Can I give it a stab?
Yeah.
I don't claim to be this enlightened, beyond God understanding here. But Jesus on the cross,
Yeah.
it's pretty close.
And brother, I tell you, when I first had Darshan of my guru, and I saw him there, and I've never ever, when if you would have said that to me, Jesus on the cross, ever in my life, I would have said, I need more explanation, explain further, elaborate more, tell me more, give me more stuff for my mind to try and work out what you're talking about. But when I saw my guru first give Darshan, immediately, Jesus on the cross completely got it. That's it. The way I perceived him was he has taken on this body, which he is suffering in constantly. He's been, and when he sits there for Darshan, 1,000 people every few weeks, he's taking on their entirety of their being. He sees everything in them, like their entirety of their being, all their karma. He's just taking it on, and that messes up. Like his body's messed up after doing that for like 40 years and whatever else. But just seeing the pain, the choice to basically, of your own will, to suffer for the sake of someone else. You know, which is, I guess, the embodiment of love. You know, so it keeps coming back to that love. And again, so you can, with that love, we can talk about, yes, the quality of total unselfishness, of total humility, of total giving, you know, and then, yeah, it's what it is. If we can just get out of our own way, get out of his way, then we can allow that to just be how it is, and how it's always been.
I think that's the truth there as well. And I'll come back to how you said, because when you experience that personal love from God, that I'm not sure how you would explain it. Maybe the same way I felt it, which was this. It's almost a forgiveness of everything you've ever done. It's a grace of something we feel like we don't deserve because we have done so much wrong, and we've made so many mistakes. Call that evil, whatever you want to call it, sin. And Toby felt this literally a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I believe that comes and it's given based off a asking, right? We ask for him to make himself known in a way that I believe that the only true way we can fully experience him is in the most complete way we can even perceive, like possibly experience him, is through that repentance of realizing that exactly what you just said, that we are the ones, or our flesh or our desires originally are the ones that are actually creating this disunity away from him. And we actually just want to be unified with him. We want to be unified in complete love and complete grace, ultimately. And that's the whole purpose of this. But only realizing through the fact that we actually need to repent, which repent just comes from the original Greek repentanoia, which means just to change your mind It's a beautiful, and sin just means to miss the mark in the original Greek too. And so it's this calling back to, like, you are making mistakes. That's pretty obvious. If you don't realize that, then you're not human. And that we need to change our way of thinking. We need to repent. And by realizing that, we open ourselves up to denying that which is self, to deny ourselves, and to actually be able to be in alignment in the will of God. But because you actually probably did that to some extent, and then felt the presence of love personally, and now you know through that how to distinguish what is love and what isn't love through that, I think that's actually where it lies ultimately. If you understand the distinguishing of what love is and what love isn't, I think that's the underlying, that's like all of it right there. Like Jesus is love, God is love. And it all comes from that suffering servant mentality that builds everything else, that none of this life is actually about you or for you, but about serving God. And then how do we serve God? And how do we fulfill his will? Because Jesus says, not everyone that says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only those who do the will of my Father, only those who do the will of God. And so that's where I think this line in the sand of what is the will of God. And I believe that you've got a part of that, which is love. And I think love is truth, but there's still this, we have so much more that goes on in our life that isn't just love. Like there's this massive, you got love, and then the universe expands from there. And it's like, what about alcohol? What about money? What about this? What about that? What about my self-denial? What about, there's all these other aspects.
Like, what's your idea on purpose? Is it an illusion?
Why do you want a purpose?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Why do you want one?
Yeah.
I would ask you the same question. Why do you want a purpose?
What is the purpose of life then?
Why do you want one?
Nihilism. Suffer.
Like the desire for a purpose comes out of the selfish ego, because you want to feel important, that you really exist.
Or can I push back? Does God have a purpose?
Other than, it's like, does he have a purpose other than I mean, it does things. I don't know if it has a purpose. I don't know if it has a purpose outside of itself, but its purpose is itself. It just is love. Like you can say what it does, like it heals. You might want to say the purpose is to heal.
Purpose is love.
But its purpose is itself. It's just...
Does he have, so why did he create us?
Bored, maybe. I don't know. Got sick of...
Would you say out of love he created? Or just...
And I don't know if the creation is... I wouldn't say I believe the creation is like he did that then. I wouldn't say he did that then. I say that it's always happening. It's outside of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like the creation, the beginning and the end, it's all... There's beginning and no beginning end. It's just happening now. And it's kind of a weird thing to think about, but if it's all just happening now, yeah, again, why?
Do you have, so you don't have purpose?
No, not a purpose in that, like, but it's not a thing that I need. Like, you don't, the purpose, the sense of I want a purpose, or then I can say, oh yes, now I'm doing God's will. Now I'm on the right path, and now I'm going about it well. Yes, that means I'm coming to God. It's still just chatter. It's just chatter in the mind. It's the true, the ultimate. Or you could say, I guess you could say purpose, but you could say my purpose is to love. My purpose is to serve. My purpose is to help others. Yeah.
Okay, so
but how do I do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe that's only something that there's something that only we can hand to God as a, not my will be done, God, but your will be done. And it's a submission, right? It's a submission to knowing that this desires and myself wants only things that are of myself. And that's the whole, everything is like, I am God, I am my own everything revolves around me and what I want. I'm finding it I won't like I'm finding it really hard to distinguish the difference of like if you have purpose or there is no purpose, because everything just is. I believe there's a confusion in that, because like there is a clear purpose from what Jesus imparts onto us. Like he gives us literal commandments of things that we are, if we love him, Jesus says, if we love him, we'll abide in his word and keep the commandments. And that's one part of his will. Another is, if you love me, you will love others as I have loved you first. There's a lot. As if you want to follow me, he says, go to all nations, baptizing in the Holy Spirit, in the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. There's these things, and it's not like me as a Cali athlete is like, that's my purpose. That's not my purpose. It's a part of that which God can utilize to meet people for his kingdom and his purpose. And so I have a clear understanding of, when I wake up each day, I get into what we call the throne room or the kingdom of God, or into his presence, and I receive his presence and maybe some instruction, literal, what we call words of knowledge. And we have the word that imparts understanding of how we're supposed to treat one another, how we're supposed to follow through on the fact that we're loved by God. And I don't think that love is supposed to come here and end here, that it goes and it imparts into the world. But ultimately, we have a decision and a free will to disconnect ourselves from even receiving that, to be able to let it into the world as well. Like, we could deny God, right? We could just say, deny God, whatever, bro. Like, and then you just go live your hedonistic, lifestyle, and then there's no love. But that there's actually ways that we know how that is revealed to us, to be able to actually do that in totality, that it's not all on us, that not only is there a full submission, but that full submission comes back with we've been able to accept and have direction. Because I believe there's a part in this where, great, now you've submitted, but everything kind of just is, and there isn't specifically a purpose, but love exists as a personal being / impersonal being. So then I guess I'm just putting myself in the shoes of that understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong in any way with what I'm saying about from what we've discussed, but that I would wake up and I'd be left with no inspiration, motivation, what I want to say. It's almost like a desire, because I think desires and passions aren't evil, right? It's when the extent of them goes too far. It's like sex isn't bad, right? It's a desire, it's a passion, it's something we want. It's not bad, but there's a circumstances, there's a confinement of where it becomes bad. Rape is bad, right? But rape is sex. And so how do we know the difference? Like, how do we know? Well, we know because rape is, it's a mutual agreement. Let's maybe not put it that way. Maybe having heaps of sex, hedonistic sex, you have found is probably leads you down quite a just fulfilling of self. And it's just all about your own pleasure, hedonism. But it's not sex that's bad. It's your
attachment to it. I wouldn't say it's even the volume.
Yeah.
I'd say you can have a lot of sex.
You have
a lot of sex.
Yeah.
But it's the volume.
Yeah.
But like I could speak about my method and how it relates maybe to this the feeling, and the feeling is kind of what is the remembering of God for me. But when I'm doing my method, like when I'm using the mala beads, for example, and chanting, mostly that, or also when I'm meditating, I can go for the mala beads. It's like the chanting. It can take me to a place So I you start chanting, right? And you're thinking, I'm thinking, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha Om Shri Oh man, they've still got those avocados in the fridge. Like, probably eat one Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Oh dude, I'm kind of hungry. Om Shri. Okay, good. And these thoughts,
Constant prayer.
thoughts come up. Normal thoughts.
Yep.
And the mantra keeps going. And every thought I have, I think I'm having that thought, really. And then after a while, what can happen is the mantra is going and the thinking is still happening, yet I am no longer identified with my thinking mind. Meaning I am no longer thinking. Thinking is happening, but what I'm doing is chanting mantra. What I'm doing is remembering, like actually remembering God. It's just not a mechanical process anymore. Like my conscious awareness has shifted from the thinking mind to the physical reality to the awareness of vibration in my brain.
The way I can sort of I actually have a very similar method when I kind of meditate as well, is you actually detach yourself away from the thoughts as well. So it's almost like if you were to put yourself in your mind, it's like you're watching your thoughts like a movie screen in a way. I think that's kind of like...
And so in that, it allows for any thought you may have. The thought, because when you're no longer identified with the thought itself, you realize that that's not good or bad or anything at all. It just is what it is. And when you come into that space of loving awareness, you start to see, I can start to see my psychological self, this psychological phenomena of a lot of the time some messed up stuff. Like being born in the era we're born in, some of the stuff that goes through my mind, I wouldn't write it in the book, and experiencing that as separate from me, and then this loving awareness, then I'm just loving myself, but I'm not actually doing anything. I wasn't actually trying to do anything. Wasn't actually thinking a certain thought. I was just slowing myself down and becoming aware of the present reality.
Do you have peace?
I'm gaining peace, for sure. I have peace a lot more than I used to have peace. I have a very active mind.
I can tell right now, just the way you're presenting yourself, it's very very relaxed a bit. And I can tell when you were going through that stage of questioning atheism, questioning God and all that, and then business. I feel like there was this a desire that was constantly I want more.
Yeah.
And now I feel like it's kind of switched up, being okay, I don't know how you can explain it. Maybe that's peace.
And I would say with the yoga, and I'm not just the yoga becomes, I guess, you're more physically aware of it in your hearts and your chakras and your centers, your energy centers in your body. Your heart is, my physical sensations of my body have more so moved up into my heart space, where when I'm with other people more often than it used to be, is I'm feeling my heart, and I'm feeling that you're here and I'm here, and I'm not in my head or in my maybe my third chakra, where I'm thinking I'm seeing you as a competitor. In business, I'm saying, how can I make money out of you, or how can I beat you, or whatever. But more in the heart is more of that, just being with you and accepting that you're real and I'm real, and you have all everything that's going on within you. And that's how it is. And that's kind of what, I guess, that method of that loving awareness, but also the presence in the heart space.
There's definitely...
is that real then?
There's definitely an understanding as well that we instructed that it's not just about going to Sunday church and then that's it, and then you go on with your life and live a two lifestyle, and I think that's pretty much probably more than 50% of Christianity this day and age, maybe even more than that. I wouldn't even want to claim to know what that is, how big that is, bro. And it's actually learned the other day that 50% of Christian men, or 40%, something like that, still watch porn and actually don't have a problem with it. And so there's this serious religious spirit, this serious religious problem that we have right now with that. But that ultimately, I'll bring it back, that we're supposed to be in constant relationship with the divine and constant prayer. Our heart is always supposed to be in prayer to God. And so I believe that's what you're doing there. But from my understanding at the moment of Hinduism, you guys don't just have one God, or do you believe, I know that there's different sects, right? There's some that believe of only one. I think that's Krishna, correct me if I'm wrong. But there's ultimately many gods, or many like,
So it's all ultimately one.
Yeah.
We don't believe that there's one guy doing this thing and there's another guy doing this thing.
Yeah.
It's just that in the maybe nearly infinite, in the amount of thoughts, the infinite number of thoughts that you have, you can create anything in your mind. And so, sometimes if you didn't have a dad, and you grow up Christian as God the Father, and you didn't have a dad, it might be a little bit hard for you to relate to God as your father. Just out of common sense, because you didn't have a dad. And if your relationship with your dad was terrible, you might be scared of God. You probably would be scared of God. And that's generally how a lot of the structured religion is. It's because people are scared and they project that. They come to God with fear. They're scared.
I agree.
And so their repentance is
based off of fear.
Based off fear, guilt, shame. All this. It's not based off
love.
Love is I'm sorry. Genuinely, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Fear is say you're sorry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so bringing it back, in the Hindu tradition, God has many forms. He is still only himself, one, but he may take the form of your mother, the divine mother, Mahalakshmi, or Krishna, your friend, or baby Krishna, your child, or Ganesh, an elephant with its soul, or Rama, a king, and so, or Radha, your lover, Radha-Krishna relationship, and it allows for this relationship, because it's so much about relationship. It allows you to actually develop the relationship that is natural for you, that is more natural for you. And for me, like I do puja, we have like deities, like little statues that we may use to help us with this connection. They're kind of like I don't know, imaginary friends, or like, the little teddy bears that you have as a kid. Yeah. And we do blessing to them, and it helps us. It's just a method to help us get closer to this relationship. And my Ishtadev, who Guruji has given to me, essentially this form of the divine that is that will help benefit my relationship, is Krishna. And I have Krishna tattooed on my arm. And for me personally, it's baby Krishna. And so I have many though relationship. I love when I see God as my child. It's the most beautiful thing, because when I'm experiencing my own reality as my own child, but being God, how can I not love it? How can I not serve it? When it's 11 p.m. at night and I've got to do my blessing that takes half an hour, and I've had a massive day, but it's baby Christian, but it's a baby, I'm going to go take care of it. It's because that relationship for me is more natural. If I see God as also for me my lover, because I have had lovers, it's the most beautiful, powerful, energizing thing that he yearns for me. He is that almost like that girl, that mother that wants me. that is asking for me, pleading for me, will create and destroy the entire universe 1 billion times just to be in that divine relationship, just to marry me, the marriage of the Lord, or for my friend. The way I perceive Guruji in the personal is like my lover, is this romantic relationship, and also my friend. At times, there was one time in Vrindavan in India, which is the land of Krishna. He was giving a talk in front of us, about 500 people, and he was telling a story about Krishna and one of his devotees, and this relationship, this friendship, this beautiful friendship between them. And at one point, and I'm sitting there, and what he said to me is, he said, "Okay, learn just to sit near me in silence. Don't try to do any of this up chakra or whatever. Just sit near me in silence." I'm like, okay, I'll sit near you in silence. And so I'm sitting, and he's giving this talk, and he's talking about this beautiful friendship relationship between Krishna and his devotee. And I'm sitting there breathing into my heart, and I'm feeling just very peaceful and a lot of love from this story that he's sharing. And then he starts to cry, Guruji in front of him. And this build up inside me, and this is the first time where I ever loved my Guru, is where he starts to cry, and his crying is immediately mirrored in myself, and I'm feeling, and I start bawling my eyes, I'm crying, and he's crying, and the feeling inside my heart was that he was crying for me, that he's with this love, that almost like this friend that has been waiting for me for so long, and I'm finally here, like your best mate you haven't seen in so long, and you finally reunited with him as mates. And I just cried my eyes out because I knew that feeling with friends I've had, but it was just divine, eternal friendship. And so there's different ways we can relate to God.
I was about to say there was a really, you just mentioning that's the feeling I had, God, and like I feel like randomly hit me too. It wasn't, I don't know if you want to call it God or Holy Spirit, whatever, but it was, I felt that when you mentioned, when you said you didn't know what love is or know what truth is. And there's just, I think there's only one question I have left, which is, does evil exist?
Do you define evil?
I mean, one way for us to understand it that we can both at least come from understanding is the opposite of love. It's maybe one way to define it for us.
It's just, yeah, but it's just the other side of the coin.
Yeah, does the other side of the coin exist?
Of course, I mean, it's a coin.
How do we know?
We're perceiving it, we're here. Like, this is it. And it's God. So, of course, he has a dark side, Of course, there's there's the devil. It just comes from God. It's just, of course there is. It all exists, but it all is from him.
So God is both love and evil?
So there's that. For me, it's beyond. Now it's beyond this duality. It's not. It's non-dual. That two becomes one. Like the love is between two things, and he is both two, and he is this relationship, but he is also the only one. We exist, but we don't exist, and so love and fear both disappear when there is God. It just is him. For love, you need two. There has to be an object of your love. But for God, he is the one. And so he encompasses the two. And so this is the difference between Hinduism and Buddhism is also. They're both for realization, but Buddhism uses non-dual awakening. Hinduism, we use relationship or dualistic, like devotional faiths. But it's all back to the one, which is God. And so, yeah, it's still him, I would say. Both sides of the coin are still God. It's still, you know what I mean?
I feel like I want to hand that over to Toby.
Man, I'm actually honestly just keen just to listen to this, honestly. I've just been absorbing this. I'm like, I don't want to even ask any questions. I just want to like just listen to it.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay.
I'm just so invested. I'm just like, I'm just gonna let this episode I'm just gonna quiet myself down a bit. I'm just gonna let Jake ask questions just to listen to this guy. I feel like it's sick. I was like,
Alright.
I haven't said anything this entire podcast, but I'm just like listening. Good, I love it.
Okay. This has been a really cool conversation though.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So God ultimately is, so just from understanding that I have, that I feel like is the same God that I think we're referring to in the Old Testament, being Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I think everyone almost follows that God for some reason, because everyone agrees on those 10 commandments pretty much. Some have just differences, but there's very much underlying truths, like we said. And that if a God is love, and here we are trying to understand the infinite. Good luck to us.
We're a few mental gymnasts. Is what's happening. Is nothing's really happening.
Sure.
We're not going to achieve anything.
No,
but it's pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe the purpose of life is fun.
Exactly.
I think there's a purpose to it, especially being half gymnast myself.
You may think there's a purpose, but there's no purpose.
Yeah, there is, and you can feel it when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So and ultimately, I believe it's to all of it. I mean, it always comes back to me. King Solomon in Ecclesiastes. King Solomon has been given everything under the sun. Like, he's got 700 wives and 300 concubines, slaves. So he's got all the servants. He's got all the wealth in the world. He even asked God to impart wisdom on him, right? And so he's got everything. And in the end, he says everything is vanity. Everything's vanity. Nothing has meaning or purpose, he says. But the only thing that actually matters is that we love God and that we keep his commandments. And so the only thing that matters is to love God and follow his will. That's it. We could do all this like you're saying, mental gymnastics, thinking it through, understanding all this kind of stuff. And it's not that God's saying that it's not important to not understand, because he created everything. He gave us an intellect. He gave us all these reasons, right? There's a purpose to everything he's designed. But for me to understand that, like, everything is vanity, even knowledge and wisdom is vanity, because the more knowledge, he says, the more knowledge I have, the more grief I have. It's like the more you know, the less you know, right? And so, but all of it's just to love God and to follow his commandments, and that's the purpose of life. And so we get to that. That's it. That's it. We kind of almost agree on that pretty much. But then we also, like, if we expand that out, and I think we get dangerous when we try to expand too far, but if we expand that out just a little bit, it's like, okay, what does it mean to love God, and how do we follow his commandments? And Jesus kind of reveals to us that it's to love God and love your neighbor. That's like, if you encompass those two, then you encompass everything of which God willed, what God's purpose for us is. And then, but he calls out that there's evil in the world, and that we are called to be almost protectors of the truth, to be protectors of what is good, and righteous ultimately. And God is only good. He says, you know, why do you call me good? Only God is good, and only God is righteous and perfect and holy. And
we're going for 2 hours.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, I think we'll finish up on this. We'll finish up right here. But yeah, that ultimately, I think that there's one really key difference from what I've understood in this conversation is we're both like so close in the beliefs, in the understanding, in the underlyings, and everything. But that I think that Jesus very clearly states there's evil in the world. He says, you know, Satan, get behind me, calls out false prophets, calls out, you know, there's going to be an antichrist, that which is the opposite of me, There'll be someone that will say, like, I am Jesus, I am like Jesus, but they're not him, because no one can be God. No one can be, which is the Son of God, which is Jesus, the full, real deal incarnation of God. No one can be him, is what he says. Mind you, this is not my claiming. This is just me trying to understand what already exists. But that there is an evil and a good. And I think, like you said, those thoughts that come to our mind, we are told to take every thought captive, and that we ourselves are not our thoughts, because Jesus says it's not that which goes into us that defiles us. It's what comes out that defiles us. So, I guess my big thing that I guess I leave with this, maybe for you, and specifically, is that if there is a purpose, there is a goal, which is enlightenment, there is a going towards that. In part of that, there's a going away from as well, because what you go towards, there must be a leaving behind. And so there is, if you want to call that just an attachment, or whatever you want to call it, but ultimately that is the wrong, that is the bad, that is the evil, that which we submit and we like hand over in return for grace. Because we don't deserve it, but it's not something we even earn. Like you said, it's not by our works, it's not by things we do that we are saved, or that we reach enlightenment. It's not by what we do. And I think that's again a really big one, that you're like, that Hinduism and Buddhism teaches. It's like, we can't do anything to get it. It's not by what we do. And that's why he says, it's not through faith that you are saved. It's through faith that you are saved, not by works, so no man shall boast, right? And so we receive it. We receive grace. We receive love. But we have to actually first hand over the evil, the sin, the things that, sin being miss the mark, miss the goal. We got to hand over that to be able to receive that which is the opposite. And so I only have one contention, and this is it, that there is an evil and a good. And we are asked to discern that. And that's our whole journey here, is like, what is of God and what isn't of God. And that's what we're always in constant. That's why we want to constantly be in the spirit, constantly praying in our heart to God, because we're always trying to discern, what is God willing here, not what do I think, what is my perspective. Who am I? I'm nothing. I am just this vessel, but I am a vessel for either good or for God. I could murder, rape, get drunk, hedonism, nihilism, whatever you want, and all of that be against what God willed. Or I could submit my life, for who submits his life to me will save it, but ever who lives for himself will lose it. And so that's my only thing, is that there is an evil and something that we have to submit, and call that whatever you want. But yeah, I don't know what you want to say off that. We can wrap really close up on this.
Yeah, I just say, I would just, on getting to God, and you talk about, I like you say, to love God and to follow his commandments. I would say that when you love God, you don't have to worry about the second one.
Yeah.
Because it already
that
happens.
comes by nature.
But just by following his commandments doesn't mean you
no.
love God.
Yes.
And so and in terms of good and evil, I would say, in that being good, following the commandments being the good thing to do, I'd say don't try to get too good don't try to get good too quickly. A lot of people try to get on a spiritual path, and they try to become all righteous, and they wear fancy clothes, and they put a thing on their head, and whatever, but not to try and get good too quickly, because ultimately the more that you try, the harder it is. And I would just wrap it up with a story that probably honestly summarizes maybe the source of a lot of my peace over the last 6 months. Is that when I got back from Germany the second time, I was full of goodness, full of righteousness. I had a smile on my face, and I was up every morning earlier and earlier and earlier before the sun rose, 4:30, and I was full of goodness. And you looked at me, you would say, doing it perfectly. Like he is on
pinging.
he is on his way to God, right? I was up doing my prayer, and I wasn't eating any bad food, dude. I was really watching my diet, not eating too much, and I was miserable, absolutely miserable. There wasn't any love in me. I was being really good. I was so caught up in doing good of fear of what I thought was evil. And when I let go of that righteousness, and I said, screw it. I want to do this stuff anyway. I'm going to have to, to me, you're going to fulfill out all your desires. It's not like you can righteously give one up, because you righteously give one up and then you just got righteousness. And now there's another one to try and be good. And so I kind of came to the sense of, well, it's just going to happen the way it happens. And I started to partake in terms of my eating, in terms of all sorts of things. You knew from the outside, you say, oh, he got sloppy. But what I was just perceiving was this, okay, I'm eating my food now as much as I want, right? Going to get all these donuts and really just enjoying it and just really having it all. And inside, there's just this awareness of my guru that's there, watching with love, not saying anything, not saying I should do anything different, just saying, far out, man, here we are. And this is the way it is. And I was like, wow, this isn't so bad, and this may be, okay, I can learn from that, I don't need this. Yes, I am going to move away from this, but I'm with it, and I'm not so scared of it anymore. So you can acknowledge the bad, but you also must love it too, and that comes into forgiveness. But sometimes it takes pushing to one side to then go to the other side and experience that. But I would just say, God will just love you for being yourself and every experience and everything that is you and all of your bad qualities. Don't be afraid of them. They're Him. It's Him doing it. It's His will. He is the one doing that. You will learn a lesson from it as you become more conscious and put your trust in Him. But the most important thing is just to love Him.
Cool. Should we
Wrap
wrap it up? Yeah. I think
Well,
so.
guys, thank you for tuning into Godcast episode 8 with Kade. Definitely the most different conversation we've ever had, but it was so cool. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, I really appreciate it.
What's that on your hand?
Oh, so these are my mala beads. So this is the method for the mantra.
Oh,
This you
I
can
see.
use, yeah. So I can have this and just put it in the bag for ease. But
Catholicism have a very simple. Is it Catholicism or Eastern Orthodox? I think it's Catholicism. They have Mary beads, and every time you go through them, you swipe them, and you just say the Lord's Prayer every time you go through them.
Oh, yes.
so I'm saying a mantra
Yeah.
every time I go over that, and I get all the way to the end, 108 times, whatever, and then I get to here, and then I just turn around, and then I just go back.
How interesting.
Yeah.
And so when I wake up, my method is when I wake up, I do that 8 times with my mantra,
Yeah.
out loud to start, and then as the thoughts start to quiet down, it becomes just an internal, like with the breath.
Yeah.
And on the out breath, I'm saying the second half of the mantra,
Yeah.
and then I do that, and then I just keep the mantra with me my entire day, essentially. So when I'm doing like when I'm doing things that I can't that are quite not strenuous, but like involved, I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah.
If I'm driving, I can do it internally, and the goal is for it to have it that mantra become internal constantly without any effort.
Conscious. Yeah.
So like counting sheep when you're going to sleep in a way.
Yeah, essentially, and it starts out just robotic, but as I described in the podcast, it turns into it actually becomes a relationship. You have I start to have a relationship with the mantra now that it takes my awareness to a different spot. It takes it to itself, which is love. And then I'm just experiencing love while watching thought. So it's just a meditation tool. Yeah, it's a meditation tool.
Thank you guys so much. All right, Godcast out. Thank you so much, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, bro, thank you for the conversation. That was awesome.
Thank you.
For the love, for the hate, for the sons and the faith, for the drums and the baseless break. Something to make for the ones in the basement, chasing the one that's great. Hugs and the thanks, not the funds in the bank. Drum for the kids, listen up what I say.